Welcome everybody, and we're going to turn it right over to Kevin to talk about Coffee 101.
All right. Well, I've only been out for a couple of years. I've only been drinking coffee for a couple of years, so I hope that in that couple of years I've learned some stuff that can be beneficial to people. And if there's stuff I forget, please let me know and we can talk about it. Okay, so what I'm going to cover tonight is I want to start out with talking about coffee and health, because it is part of the old word of wisdom we used to whatever. Anyway, and then I want to talk about caffeine. Caffeine is a big part of coffee. I'll talk about the different drinks there are. So when you go to a coffee shop, you will know what you're talking about. Want to talk about ordering coffee at those coffee shops. Then I'll talk about beans. There's a lot to know about beans. And then home brewing, which is my favorite. And so I do want to talk about that if you want to get started brewing your coffee at home. I don't know anything about roasting beans, so you'll have to talk to someone else if you want to know about roasting yourself. Okay, so the number one question with coffee and health is coffee healthy? And I would say that answer depends on the person. For some people it will be, and for some it might not. But in general, WebMD claims that 2 to 4 cups per day is correlated to best health. And that limit is mostly dependent on the caffeine. They say that 200 to 400 milligrams of caffeine a day is in that sweet spot. And anything more than that, you just don't want to go there in general. Okay, so everyone really ought to pull up WebMD, when you have some time and read about the benefits and pros and cons of coffee as it regards to your health. But in general, what WebMD says is that it does lower your risk for type 2 diabetes. It does slightly reduce your risk for heart disease. And unless you're a smoker, it should lower your risk for Parkinson's disease. And then precautions that it's going to give you is, if you're pregnant, you should reduce usage. Breastfeeding, you don't want that to go to the child because caffeine keeps kids up. And so you want to avoid that. Then if you have certain conditions, anxiety, bipolar, I've listed several of them there. If you have certain things, then you may want to avoid it. And things like alcohol and antibiotics, birth control, other drugs, they can affect the way that caffeine breaks down. And so, if that alcohol will slow the breakdown of caffeine. And so it'll just affect the way that your body's processing it. Another thing that coffee has is a lot of antioxidants. It is number 11 on a study I looked at. It's behind those berries. And we know that antioxidants are good for us, but berries are awfully expensive. So we don't consume a lot of them through berries, but coffee is the number one source for antioxidants in the world because of how much gets consumed and how it's much cheaper than berries. So this was all according to WebMD. If you read certain things, if someone's selling you coffee, they might tout that it's the healthiest thing ever, but I thought WebMD was pretty unbiased. So hopefully that's a good overview on that. Now, pros and cons, things that we've all observed. Coffee it does help your mental alertness. This is due to the caffeine. I think that one's pretty well known. It wakes you right up. One thing that I did observe personally, probably the first observation I made when I started drinking coffee was that it suppressed my appetite quite a bit. I love sugar and I eat way too many donuts and cookies and all that stuff. And when I started drinking coffee, my whole desire to eat cookies kind of went down. I actually turned down a cookie probably for the first time in my life. So that was a huge pro. And with that, if you drink a soda every day for lunch or whatever, having a treat, something you like, if you like coffee, if you drink a black, it has 0 calories, and that is a lot healthier than a soda. So that's, a big thing to consider. I mentioned it's packed with antioxidants, and if you, drink coffee, it's got caffeine in it. Go exercise, you should have more energy. I've noticed that when I go run after I have my cup of coffee, I am able to, I've noticed there's a big change in my energy level. Things you need to watch out for. A caffeine dependency is something you can get. If you don't get your caffeine, then you'll get a headache. And I thought about that one a lot when I was thinking about, should I start, drinking coffee every day? But what I determined was I have to have breakfast every day and I have to have water every day. So coffee is about the easiest breakfast item you can think of to get. They have it almost everywhere. If you go to a hotel, it's very rare that you can't find coffee in the morning. The only place that I have a problem is when I go to my mom's house, because there's no coffee at her house.
Just get some Mountain Dew.
It's not the same. It's just not the same. But yeah, that one's a sore spot. But anyway, anxiety. If you're an anxious person and you start drinking coffee, watch out for that. If you have acid reflux, you're probably not going to want to drink too much coffee. Again, try it, see if it hurts you. It can make you shaky. None of these, I mean, caffeine dependency is probably the only one that I've actually noticed. Tannins though, tannins are, I'm not really exactly certain what they are, but they stain your teeth. And it's in alcohol, it's in coffee and many teas. So if you want to have perfectly white teeth, then maybe you want to skip out on it. I don't know. I guess you got to leave you got to leave behind the alcohol and tea as well. But I'm not really too concerned about the whiteness of my teeth, but I haven't really noticed them getting any yellower. So I guess maybe it's just a case by case basis. Okay, so here's one that was funny. I read an article. It said something about, yes, it is the temperature of your caffeine. We all know that joke. What's the difference between a Mormon and a normal person? And it's the temperature of the caffeine, right? So I saw that headline. I had to send it to my brother-in-law, and I said, "Oh, it looks like you're right. Coffee is the temperature of the caffeine that's going to cause cancer." Apparently, though, if you drink it way too hot, it can burn your esophagus, give you cancer. So watch out for that. Don't drink it when it's boiling hot, right? And another con that you're going to find is, according to our best friend Julie Beck, if you remember that conference talk, it is a one-way ticket to hell. So it will keep you out of heaven. That one little cup of coffee, and you'll never be in the never have I ever. Okay. And then there's a couple of things here that are pros or cons depending on the person.
Let's see. We're getting a lot of feedback here.
Joe.
I think it's Joe.
Is it Joe? Joe has a question, but his
Joe's
mic.
got a question.
So.
All right, go for it, Joe.
Sorry, really quick, and it's probably not the right time to have a question, but can you talk a little bit about how to talk to a barista about what the temperature should be? Anyway, I'll go on mute.
You might as well talk about that now. When you brew your coffee, it's got to be the right temperature to brew it at is just below boiling, and so you just wait. It's time. Just wait for it to cool down. And I'll talk about a little bit later that you can have it iced. There's different ways to drink it, but yeah, as far as brewing coffee, it's basically below boiling, and so there's not really an option with one caveat, which I'll get to. But yeah, the barista is just gonna give it to you at the same temperature. You can't talk to them about that. Okay, hopefully I'd answered that. If not, we'll get it later. Okay, so pros or cons, caffeine will stimulate your digestive system. So for someone, say if you have hemorrhoids, this can help you a lot. It can help keep your stool soft, and that can be a huge benefit to many people. I won't go into TMI. Well, yes, I will. So I have never had better stool than when I've been drinking coffee. Sorry, that was inappropriate, but I did it anyway.
I have a comment about that. I didn't mean to raise my hand on stools. No, I have a sister-in-law. This is Tom's sister. She had pretty bad digestive problems. She's a true believing Mormon, and her doctor said, please just go through McDonald's drive-in in the morning on your way to work and get a cup of coffee. That will literally take care of all your problems. Who thinks that she did that, even with a doctor's prescription?
Of course not.
Nope. She would rather have the medications and whatever else it is that's just going to mess up your system, the endless cycle of that, instead of something very natural, a cup of coffee in the morning that will take care of the issues like what you just said. So she wouldn't do it.
Yep. And in 2 years, I mean, it has cured me, I would say. So, but for someone else, it might not be a pro. That might be, that can, yeah. It's dependent on the person. The other pro or con is that it prevents sleepiness. Obviously, if you want to be awake, then coffee is a great thing to have. It'll keep you awake, but it can also keep you up at night. And so I think my next slide, I'll get into this a little bit. I do want to talk about the sleep cycle because it can also help your sleep. So this right here is the big reason that I started drinking coffee. Is I started doing a little bit of research on kind of our wake sleep cycle. And what happens is, sorry to get nerdy on everybody, but I'm going to do it anyway. So you wake up and you have these things, there's this chemical in your, I guess it's in your brain. I'm not an expert on this, but this adenosine attaches to these receptors in your brain. The adenosine is a chemical. When it attaches to those receptors in your brain, it gives your brain the signal to get drowsy. So you get sleepy, you fall asleep, and then while you're asleep, this adenosine falls off of those receptors. And then you wake up, and then the process goes over and over again. And what the way that caffeine works is it fits right into those receptors. So, but it doesn't cause you to get tired. So it will basically get it gets into the adenosine receptor. The adenosine can't get there. And then your brain doesn't get the adenosine and it thinks you still want to be awake. So that's how it keeps you awake. The half-life of caffeine is about 6 hours. So, every 6 hours, half the caffeine in your system will go away. And then over time, it'll allow the adenosine back into those receptors. So that's kind of how caffeine can keep you awake. The side effect of this is that your body is going to catch on that there's not enough adenosine receptors. And so it will start to build more receptors. And so you'll build a tolerance to caffeine. And all that is just building more of these adenosine receptors. So my whole reason in starting drinking coffee was to get a lot of caffeine early in the morning in hopes that I would produce more adenosine receptors and sleep better at night. And I would say that I have noticed much better sleep over the last 2 years. Obviously, there's other stuff correlated. For a while, I thought I cured myself of insomnia, but then a couple stressful weeks kind of proved me wrong. But overall, I think I've slept better. And I think Marty Lynn agrees with me. So I don't think I'm just, biased here. Let's see. I think I caught everything there. Hopefully it made sense to everybody, that little wake sleep cycle. Okay, so I wanted to post just a table of how much caffeine is in stuff so that a cup of coffee is about 95 milligrams. It varies. That's just a rough estimate. We'll talk about an espresso later. It has a little bit less caffeine in it. It's about 60. So three shots of espresso are about 2 cups of coffee. Your sodas, your Mountain Dew is kind of high. It's in your 50s. Your Bang soda has 300 milligrams. So that's basically 1 Bang soda a day, and you're almost done. You're almost, I guess you're right in that middle range of 2 to 4 cups of coffee.
I've never heard of Bang soda.
It's like your Monster drinks.
Oh, okay.
You can drink it. There's not against the word of wisdom. Anyone can drink it. So I guess there you go. The fun one is Sunkist.
Question. Ren has a question really quick. I think.
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you. I've had a little bit of trouble trying to find the caffeine content. So when you say 1 cup of coffee is 95 milligrams, is that kind of general across the board? Or does it depend on the type of bean, like the roast, or does it vary?
It's going to vary. It widely varies, even to the brew method.
Okay.
Yeah, like each cup, it's going to vary a lot with just how you brew it, how long it's brewed, the temperature of the water when it gets brewed. So yeah, 95 is a very rough estimate.
Okay.
And there are also different beans that the different beans have different, there's different varieties of beans. There's an Arabica, which has less, and a Robusta has more.
Right.
I'll talk a little bit more about that, but yeah.
Okay,
very,
cool.
Yep, you bet. Varies widely. Okay. Yeah, the fun one on this list I thought was Sunkist soda, because that's the one you give your kids and no one knows it has caffeine in it, but it does. Sorry, you can't be ignorant anymore. So black tea is about as much as a Mountain Dew. A cup of green tea is less. And so if I ever like get tired in the afternoon, usually a cup of green tea is just the right amount to not make you stay up all night, but it does the job. Decaf coffee has about 2, so it's, compared to sodas, it's really nothing, but it does have something. All right. Okay, so if you go to a coffee shop, you might see a menu like this on the right hand side. Those numbers are all bogus though, so don't pay attention to the numbers. These are the types of drinks you might see, and this is just a very general, very general menu. But what I want to do is I kind of want to explain what these different drinks are so that you do know kind of the difference between them. Okay, so we start out with an espresso. If you go to a coffee shop, they probably use, I don't want to say no, they don't always, but most all of them will use an espresso machine, which what it does, it makes a highly concentrated shot of coffee. That's what an espresso is. It's about 2 ounces. It's gonna be very strong. It's not going to taste good. But what it does is it works as the base for all other drinks. And so when they say Americano, what that is that's an espresso diluted with water. And for all intents and purposes, it is a black coffee. It tastes, if you don't know what Americano is, it will taste just like a coffee to you. So if you just want coffee, you can just ask for an Americano. So a latte is going to be that espresso mixed with 8 to 24 ounces of steamed milk. So that's kind of, that's a lot of milk, 1 to 3 cups of milk. Anywhere in that range would be called a latte. The only difference between that and not the only difference, the big difference between that and a cappuccino is going to be the amount of milk. It's going to have 5 to 6 ounces of milk instead of the 8 to 24. And a lot of times it'll be foamier on top, but that's going to depend on the coffee shop. But the amount is the big difference. Those are the main 2 you might order. If you've never ordered coffee before, stick with a latte. A latte is probably your safe bet. A macchiato is an espresso with 1 ounce of steamed milk. So we're talking 2 parts coffee, 1 part milk. And so that's going to taste very strong. Not a whole lot of milk there. So unless you order coffee a lot, know what you're doing, a macchiato is probably not going to be your favorite. A mocha is also a good choice. That's basically a latte with chocolate syrup in it. So they mix the chocolate syrup in the espresso and it tastes really good. You get a mocha. Okay.
I think Melinda has a question.
Oh, sorry. I'm terrible at seeing hands.
So I'm going to tell you the hands. I'm watching the hands. Melinda has a question.
I do. I was just wondering, because on the other page, you were talking about 1 cup of coffee. So I assumed that was 8 ounces. And now you're talking about 2 ounces of coffee in that espresso, but it's more concentrated. So I'm just trying to get a feel for like the amount of caffeine. Would a 2 ounce of,
Yep. Good question. Okay, so yeah, so generally they'll put 2 shots in these drinks. So that would be about 120, because so your shot of espresso is gonna be 60 compared to a normal cup of coffee, which is 95.
Okay, so in all essence, if you have 2 shots, then it could be 120 worth of close. I mean, I realize we're talking generalities, but okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's very rough. It's
So, another question is, like a large coffee have more espresso in it than a small coffee?
It would probably, it would depend on how it was made. You could, generally when they make the drinks, they have a double shot espresso. An espresso machine really just makes 1 or 2 shots of coffee or 1 or 2 shots of espresso. And so when they make it, what I've seen is they do the double shot. You could probably ask for, I think that in general, that would be what my best guess would be. But if you needed something more specific, you could ask them if it's a double shot. But that, I think in general, that's what it would most always be. Hopefully that answers to the best that I can anyway. Caveat that I could be wrong. Okay. All right. I think that was it on the general. These are what the types of drinks are. So hopefully if you walk into a coffee shop, you understand at least the lingo, hopefully. Okay, another thing that you're going to get asked, or you're going to want to know if you go in there, is someone might ask you, how do you take your coffee? In other words, what do you want me to put in it? I guess another way to say it is, how do you like your coffee? Which doesn't mean I like it a lot. It means, how do you want me to make it for you? So the common answers and the right answer would be black. That means no creamer, no sugar, nothing. It means you're like me and you're crazy and you're doing it just for health reasons. So black, that's the way to go. But if you don't do it the right way, then you can always ask for sugar, creamer, sweeteners. And I guess there's nothing wrong with that, maybe. But those will be your basic ones. If you go to, if you go to McDonald's or something, get a coffee, they'll always have stuff like that. Ren, you have a question?
Yeah, sorry. Hey, so this is, I've only started drinking coffee like 2 weeks ago. So I'm nervous as all get out to go to a place and ask these kinds of questions, or to even order. So when you say, so when you get it black, do a lot of coffee shops, do they have, like, can you add your own sugar to it? Or do you tell them like, hey, I want 2 sugars, or I don't even know.
So what usually happens, I usually just say I want a coffee. Like if I go to McDonald's, I just order a black coffee, or I just order coffee. I'll say, can I get a medium coffee? And they will generally ask me if I want any sweeteners, and I just say no. If I want it to be more specific, I say, can I get a black coffee? Then they'd still ask me if I want sweeteners, but I'll just say no again. But generally, if they ask you, what I've seen a lot of times too, like if you go to the airport, they'll just give you the coffee and then they have it all there for you to mix in. You can mix it however you want afterwards.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Do most coffee shops have that option as well, or do they not? Do they prefer to make it for you?
I think Starbucks was the only one that I saw. In general, I think that's the most common way. That's how I've gotten it anyway. I'll talk more about Starbucks though. It's weird.
Can I just add something about that?
Sure. You may know more than me too on this.
No. I was going to say that a great place to go is like going to your Harts, your Mavericks, your convenience stores, and kind of experiment with what kind of flavoring you like, because you can add it in there. You can add the different creams and stuff. You can do the half and half, where you can throw in the caramel. You can do Irish, whatever flavors you want, or not any flavors.
Instead of getting it wrong at Starbucks, it'll cost you $1.
Yeah.
So you can add all the different things they have out there and see what you like and kind of experiment.
Figure out what you want. But when I go to McDonald's, I'll get a large coffee, and I learned this term. I think I saw it on TV, so I go, I'll just do this because I don't know what else to do. So I always say, large coffee, please, and 4 and 4. And then I'm off the hook for cream and sugar. And I'm done.
Sugar.
Then I don't have to stress out like, well, what kind of sugar? What kind of cream? I just go 4 and 4, like I know what the hell I'm talking about.
What is 4 and 4?
4
cream and sugar.
Or sugar. So
4 and 4.
2 and 2, you're getting 2 cream, 2 sugar. So
But
it's a whole different language.
How many ounces of coffee is a large coffee?
Like 20,
Yeah.
24.
24 ounces.
Maybe 20, but I might only drink 18.
As big as this mug.
Oh, that's like 48. I mean, but I feel so liberated when I do that. It's like almost like, yes, take that.
That's so funny. I think Landon has a question, and then Joe, and then Melinda.
Yeah, I was going to ask. A lot of times in the hotel rooms, they have those Krieger machines, or what is it?
Keurig machine or K-Cup?
Yeah, the Keurig, and they got the little round things, and I'm not sure, you just stick those in and push down on them.
Yep.
I don't know if you put some water in, but
Yep.
That might be a good way to learn all the different tastes. It's not, because there's like a whole bunch of them, and you could just fry them all right there in the hotel room without having to. But you say no?
You don't like those, Kevin?
That's me. If you want a sugar, there's nothing wrong with that.
Can you get just black coffee in that, or
So-
are those more specialty coffees?
Yeah, no, I'm when I'm shaking my head, I'm mostly joking. A lot of people use the Keurig machines.
I love the
He's a
Keurig
coffee
machine.
snob.
No, because the Keurig machine, you can get the little packets, you put them in there, the little cartridges or whatever they're called, and you can have the flavor you want right there, and you can add as much water as you want to it as you like.
Do you
But then
put the
can
water in the
also-
machine, or do you put it in the cup, or what do you do with the
You drop
water?
it into the holder for the little cartridge, and then you close the lid, and then you select how much water you want to go into your cup of coffee.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then if
and a
you
lot of
want to
them.
add anything into it, you can still add some cream to it if you want.
So
Or you
so
can
mess
take-
around when you're in the hotel room and just try it out.
If it's a
Yeah.
Keurig like that, yes, but it just depends on the machine that's in there.
Yeah, and some of them you can take a look at the machine and see if it's got a water hose to it. If it has a water hose, then you should be good as far as not needing to add water. But oftentimes, like if you don't get the K-cup machine, a lot of the hotels will have like just some weird machine in there, and generally you always have to add the water for those. And it'll have like a fill line that you fill it up to. And those ones are not very good. Those ones are awful. Those are the ones I'm actually shaking my head at. Don't
We
use
don't
that
see
as
the difference, so we don't know.
But can I just say one more thing about sorry, Joe, you got to go. I'll let Joe go.
Question. Enough.
No, I had a great suggestion.
Go ahead.
All right.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say really quick. So I've been to about 3 or 4 different coffee places, and the people there are really helpful. You just tell them, you say, "Hey, I'm starting out," and they'll give you all sorts of information. I've never had anybody like just look at you weird or anything. And then at work, they've got a Keurig machine and a Nestle machine, and so far they've been pretty garbage. So sweetener to city.
I bet they look at you weird if you go to the airport at Starbucks in that huge line and they tell them that.
I'm a noob.
Yeah, well, and now when they just give you your coffee and you do whatever you want, you put whatever you want in it. I've been to there.
4 and 4.
4 and 4.
Around here, I've noticed people tell stories of getting free coffee. They'll say, "Oh, this is my first time getting coffee," and they'll usually get it for free.
There you go.
Milestone, an amazing moment. That's really
It's
cool.
like walking into a new church that you're going to. They greet you like you're a new.
Yeah, they love bomb
They
you.
love
at
that you're
the-
there, and they
they
give you
love
the
bomb
best
you at
seat.
The coffee store.
That's another way you can get free coffee is just go to any other church besides the Mormon church and serve coffee afterwards.
It was so weird going to churches and seeing coffee machines, and they were like, "Come over and get your coffee," and sometimes they charged it for them because.
Oh, we didn't have that, but I guess yeah.
Been
We
to a lot
only
of
tried it once, but we weren't drinking coffee at the time, so it felt like a sin still. All right. Okay, so if you're at home though, other things you can do with your coffee, brown sugar and honey is my sister-in-law's favorite. Cinnamon is really good. You can put cinnamon in it, and that works really good, in vanilla too. I actually just take a cinnamon stick and I put it down in the mug. You brew your coffee. By the time it cools down, there's cinnamon in it. It works really, really nice. Tom, you had a question?
No, just gonna add whipped cream. You just take that big thing of whipped cream and throw it on there.
Good, do
I'm
that.
And the health benefits of whipped
Get
cream.
into it, man. Okay.
Yes. All right,
I
Marty.
think Melinda had a question before.
Oh.
Did you put your hand down on purpose or not? And then Marty Lynn has a question. Did you have a question, Melinda? I think your hand was up before.
I did, but Landon asked it, so it's fine.
See, great minds think alike. There you go. All right. Then Marty Lynn, then Bruce.
You have a sister-in-law that drinks coffee?
Shelby.
Oh, okay, okay.
You do too, Marty.
My quick question is,
Oh,
what do you call a coffee with 2 scoops of ice cream in it?
An affogato?
Okay.
Yeah, I've heard of those. I've never had one, but they call them an affogato, I think. is
Yeah,
how-
I have to have coffee so doctored up that I can't taste the coffee. So
But it's dessert. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not coffee.
So,
It's dessert.
yeah, I'm just sticking with water, but yeah.
Yeah, I started drinking it black and I put sugar in it once and I actually did not like it. So, but I don't know. I'm weird. I also liked whiskey the first time I tried it, so I guess I'm weird.
Did
That's
you like the
another
black
book for
coffee
dummies.
immediately, or was it an acquired taste?
No, it took about a week. I started for health reasons. Like I did a lot of research, and I was like, I think this will help my hemorrhoids and my sleeping problem, and it did. So and now it's so relaxing to me. Like I drink it, and maybe it's because I'm ADHD or something, or I think I am anyway. But it calms me down, and it's like my favorite part of the day. It's almost a religious ritual for me, making my coffee. But
I'm the kind of kid, when I was younger in the church and stuff, I couldn't wait to go to the grocery store with my mom and walk by the big display of coffee where they had them in those bins. And I would open those things up and smell them.
Mm.
And I know other people like hate coffee, but I was so attracted to this smell. And so I couldn't wait to have coffee. I mean, just because I think I really wanted to have coffee for the sake of having coffee. And then I discovered the whipped cream and the 4 and 4. Okay, I'm done. But I love the smell of it. I love it.
You have a testimony of coffee. I get it.
I just like to stand here. Never mind.
I think Joe has another question.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, and maybe you'll get to it. So when I go get a cup of coffee at the store, it's like $5 a cup, right? Versus like, how much is it if you buy it and do it at home? Is it like hundreds of times cheaper or 20 times? I'm sure it's cheaper, but is it like a massive amount of cheaps?
so the price just went up a lot. I buy 5-pound bags, and they used to be $55, and it lasts about 3 months. And they upped the price to 85 with the droughts in Brazil. So it went up a lot, but each cup I think was around 30 to 40 cents. If you buy the beans, if you do K cups, I think those are around 50, 60 cents. Someone might know better than me. I don't buy those.
Yeah.
That all right?
And some upfront cost to your equipment.
Yeah, but that's fun. Doesn't count. That stuff never counts, Marty. Come on.
McDonald's is only
Actually,
like,
you can get those really cheap too. It's just
McDonald's is a good place to get coffee for cheap. Yep. Yeah, I actually had that on a slide and I took it out. But yeah, McDonald's, I think it used to be $1. I think they're $1.20 for 2 cups of coffee. So it's pretty cheap. And it's McDonald's is not bad. Like I drink that black and it's just fine. There's nothing wrong with McDonald's.
especially on a second Saturday.
Yeah. Okay, Joe, do you have another question, or is your hand just stuck up?
I was just stuck up. Sorry about that.
Gotcha. Tom's got one.
No, I'm done.
Oh.
It was
All right.
stuck.
Okay, so I think we answered all those. If we didn't, we'll ask it later. Okay, so additional options that you might have. Generally, they might have different types of milk: almond, non-fat, soy, all those lactose intolerant people. We love you too, I guess. And so you can ask for it, but whole milk will be the default. Whole milk is better for steaming the milk, and that's default. Other things you can ask for when you order is you can ask for different syrups, like chocolate, caramel. Look on their menu; they might have some special syrup, and they might have a special to their cafe or a special of the week or whatever. Just look up there, and that's going to depend on the shop. We kind of talked a lot about this. Black is the default. If you go to work and there's a pot of coffee there for a meeting, it will always be, I guess, almost always be black, and then you add your own sweeteners. A hotel lobby, that's going to be the same thing. Roast level is something that some shops might allow you to customize, but I haven't really seen that. But you might see a different roast level. We'll talk about that, what the differences are. And then another thing is you can get it iced or hot. So you can, like, an iced coffee is basically a coffee with ice in it. They can make the espresso, put ice in it, cool it down for you. And that's an option that people will like in the summertime.
This is iced coffee. It's my absolute favorite thing. I buy a concentrate from Starbucks, and you put a little in, you add ice, water, a little bit of creamer. It's so easy to make and really good. So that's my plug for iced coffee.
There you go. All right. And I have not been able to do iced coffee because I drink it black. You kind of have to drink it while it's mostly hot, but so I haven't gotten into iced coffee, but a lot of people like that. Okay. I feel very embarrassed. I have a whole slide dedicated to Starbucks. So I had to pull the role models kind of slam on with Paul Rudd there. He slams on Starbucks because a normal coffee shop would say that a large is 20 ounces, a medium is 16, and a small is 12. But if you're Starbucks, you have to be special. They call it a venti, a grande, and a tall. And so if you've seen the movie Role Models, you'll hear Paul Rudd. The quote's right there. You can read it. Paul Rudd goes off on it, making fun of them. So Starbucks has, I've only been there once. So that's my disclaimer here. So you may want to ignore everything I say on this slide. But I did watch a YouTube video, so I wasn't totally ignorant. And when I went there, I just asked for a medium. I'm pretty sure I said a medium mocha with caramel is what I asked for, and everything came out just fine. But if you're gonna order like a pro, the guy on YouTube told me, he says there's 5 things you need. The size, so you would say, the size, the caffeine amount. Calf would be fully caffeinated, half calf would be 1 shot decaf and 1 shot caffeinated, and the decaf would be both shots decaffeinated. You'd specify the milk, the type, which I've got issues with at Starbucks because once you give a size, a latte or a cappuccino, I don't know the difference between those two. And then the syrups that you want. And I guess they've got like, was it 24 or 44, something like that number of syrups that you can get. So look at their menu and see what it is. It was weird. So you might order something like this if you go into Starbucks. I want a grande, half calf, whole milk, mocha latte with caramel or something.
Everybody repeat. Ready? Here we go. I want
Something like that. So,
It's making me stress. Yeah.
That's how you might order like a pro. But again, like I said, I went in there and I just said I want a grande mocha and or caramel mocha, and it went just fine. I didn't have any issue. But kind of putting together what I explained on those last couple slides in this, hopefully it kind of makes sense so that you kind of have a gist of what you would do if you go in to order your coffee. And as far as I know, if you go into a normal Starbucks, not like the airport one, I think they put all the sugars and all that crap in it for you. Does anyone know any better than that? Is that right? If not, sorry. Okay. Have to keep moving my stuff around. Okay. So the brew method, there's a lot of different brew methods. I'm starting to kind of talk into, if you're going to start doing this yourself, here's kind of an overview of how you would brew your coffee. One way we've talked about it is the espresso. This is what you get at a coffee shop, most coffee shops. It uses a high pressure extraction. It has a really great taste. So an espresso is a really great way to make a coffee. People might argue that it's the best way. There's drip coffee, which is like a coffee pot. That traditional coffee pot that you would imagine. That's how I imagine coffee always being made. Pour over is how I started, and it's an easy way to start. It's a cheap way to start, and you get a lot of good flavor with it. A French press is another way, and I'll talk about all these in more detail. I'm just giving the overall different methods. A French press is one. It's got a really rich flavor to it, but you'd have to be careful with cholesterol because it lets, I guess, the oils through, and if you have high cholesterol, it might not be the best for you. And then another brew method is cold brew, and this is not an iced coffee. This is actually brewed without any heat. So, and it takes, almost a day to a day to brew fully. All right, and I'll get into how you would do those later, but roast level. This is another thing with coffee that is good to know, especially if you're going to brew yourself. There are different roast levels. So I'm showing down on the bottom, you've got beans from raw all the way to a French, maybe double French or even Italian roast. And there's a big, like, this is probably people's biggest preference. If you're going to drink your coffee black, you're going to care a lot about this. If you put sugars in it, you probably, I don't know, maybe you do, but I don't know. Rebecca, do you know? Do you care about your roast level?
Tom is the one that does the roast. Tom, he brews a lot at home. I'm more of a through the drive-through kind of a person, but Tom definitely brews. He buys beans, has them imported from all over the place. I don't know where he went. Now there's a moment where Oh, he's getting back on his thing. He was asking about ask your question
What's-
again. So he's
yeah.
back.
It's fine.
Sorry,
I'm just
sorry.
curious. I don't know if you put sugar in it. I don't know that people would care too much about roast level, but I certainly do because I drink it black.
Right.
So I don't know. Apparently Tom does.
What was oh yeah.
About the roast level.
I was just
I
saying,
don't
Tom.
understand the roast level either. I don't. When I was staying in Washington selling your parents' house, honey, I went over to the guy around the corner who did his own roasting, and he gave me 3 bags of different kinds of beans that he had roasted, and I still don't know what the difference was. But
Well,
they were
that
really
answers my
good.
question because you put sugar and cream in it, right?
I might just put a creamery in it, the creamer, and we usually get like diet. What do we get? It's the
Like the sugar-free creamer usually.
sugar free too. So I guess it's not really
Just happen
sugar.
to thinking it's better.
Okay. So if you're gonna drink your coffee black though, to me it makes a big difference. Your light roasts, they taste more fruity, but and they're not as bitter. I forgot to say, coffee is very bitter if you didn't know that already. And the darker you go, the more bitter it becomes. The lighter roasts are not as bitter, but they are more acidic, and that's the taste I don't like. And so I like to go to a dark, not quite French. The French roasts to me, they have a burnt taste, and I don't like those as much. But dark, not French, is where I like it the best because I like the bitter, but I don't like the acidic.
What's Colombian?
So that's going to be a region. There's different regions that you can get it from, and there's going to be different flavors that are unique to that region. And you by trying them, but the roast has nothing to do with the region. So after you get the beans, you take them to the roaster. Well, or they take them to the roaster, and then they roast them in any way they want.
Okay.
So, yeah, and you might find a region that you like. There might be some flavors in it that you really like in certain regions, and that's a big thing. I haven't noticed one that I particularly like more than another. To me, it's the roast that makes the biggest difference. Okay, so there's a lot to talk about beans. I'm trying to see how I'm doing on time. I'll try to be quick about this. There are different types of beans, Arabica and Robusta. Arabica are your more expensive ones. They claim to have better taste, but less caffeine. And everyone I've ever seen selling beans claims to sell 100% Arabica. I'm sure someone does sell Robusta, but I haven't seen it. Fresh beans are critical. So you really want to avoid pre-ground beans. I like to grind them right before using them. I grind them in the morning before I take them to work though, because I don't grind them at work. But you really should do it right before. K-cups, they claim to use nitrogen in them to keep them fresh. So apparently that works, maybe. I don't know. So Tom, your question about Colombia, that's the origin. The bean flavors do vary, but just find one that you like. Instant coffee, don't do it. And I'm serious, don't. It's nasty. It is awful. They dehydrate, they brew it, they dehydrate it. And I guess you can take it camping if you want, but it's not very good. And then when you're storing your beans, make sure you store them so you don't get oxygen and water on them. Now here's a really cool one. Flavored beans. Maybe you guys don't know about flavored beans, but if you want to not put sugar in it, go find a flavored bean that you like. Marty does not like the black coffee, but she did like some of the flavored beans. And so you can look, they use an oil in them. The ones I buy, they're Cafe Ibis, they roast them. They're here in Logan, but I think they sell them throughout Utah, but they have one called Highlander Grog that's pretty good. And you can drink it black. It doesn't need anything else in it for most people. At least give it a try if you want to try that.
Yeah, I'll drink that one black.
Yeah. And Tom, you would really like it because this one makes the whole pantry smell delicious. Like I think this is the reason that the coffee aisle smells so good, is the Highlander Grog one especially. Okay. We're done at 8, right, Rebecca?
You know what? Roughly, it can be whenever,
Okay.
We're not gonna go 2 hours like we usually do at book club because it's a weeknight.
Yeah.
But if we're interested in talking, we can just talk, as long as we'd like. So
Yeah, well, and I put a lot of stuff on these slides so people can reference the slides. But basically, if you want to get started home brewing, you do need a grinder. You can get a cheap blade grinder for about 15 bucks. They don't uniformly grind the beans, which I think is important. But if you just want to try it and see if you like it, not a bad place to start. More expensive grinders, they can get kind of pricey on you, but you can find a burr grinder gets nice uniform beans. And you can get like a hand grinder for 40 bucks, maybe even cheaper. But if you get an automatic burr grinder, they do cost you a little bit more. But you do need one of those, or you can buy pre-ground beans at the store and just not have your beans fresh. So to start out, maybe that's the way you'd want to do it. When you go to the store, like you go to the grocery store, they generally have a grinder there. So you get the beans whole, you can put them in the grinder, take them home and see, and then brew them up and see if you like them. And they'll certainly hold for a little while and they'll stay pretty fresh. You need to boil water. You can use a pot on your stove, or you can get a kettle. A kettle's really nice to have. But when you do your water, you want to use filtered water, or I use my tap water because I'm used to that taste. But if I made coffee for someone, I'd rather have water, like a filtered water, so that they don't taste my tap water, if that makes sense. I'm used to my tap water, so I think the coffee tastes like the water, right? And so you want to make sure you don't taste nasty water. The beans need to be brewed. Generally, it's about 195 degrees. So just off a boil, you boil your water. If you wait 30 seconds, it's probably ideal. But I usually just start right away. That's the general steps to brewing. Okay, now there's many different methods. I'll just quickly go over these. Pour over is a really nice one because you can get one of these cones for $7 on Amazon. If you want to be fancy, you can get like a $40 one, but I've got a $7 one, and I take it to work. And this is how I brew my stuff at work. I have a kettle, an electric kettle there on my desk, and this works great. You put a filter in that cup, you put your beans in the filter. I do 2 cups, so I grind about 25 grams of coffee. I do measure it. You could use a tablespoon and figure out, but you kind of just experiment and see how strong you like it. And so that's a good place to start. But if you like it weaker or stronger, you can go from there. You want to grind the beans about the same coarseness every time. And if you get it right, it tastes great. If you don't, then you try again tomorrow. But basically, there's this diagram here that shows you exactly how it is. And you just put the coffee in there and you pour the water. The water goes through the beans and through the filter, and it goes into your cup, and you've got a cup of coffee. So this is a pretty good technique. Yeah, due to time, if you have questions, you can ask me later or whatever. But I've got, I think, 3 or 4 of these to go through. So I'll try to go through them. The AEROPRESS. This is actually, okay, this is about $30 on Amazon, and this is a really good way to make a good cup of coffee. Like it comes out, it's like a poor man's espresso machine. And there's instructions on how to use it, but basically you grind your coffee, you put it in this AEROPRESS, you stir it around, let it sit for 20 seconds or so, and then you push the water through, you plunge it down like he's showing you right there. You plunge it down, and it puts pressure on these beans, and it gets the water out. And then that kind of makes a poor man's espresso. And then you can add water to make it an Americano, or you can add milk and chocolate, like hot chocolate powder is what we do, and you can make a mocha. So it's a really good way to get started as well. And it tastes really good. It's really hard to screw up your coffee using the AEROPRESS. A French press is another one that you can use. You have to buy a French press like this, and they're about $30 as well. I have not had good luck making good coffee with the French press, but it is kind of nice. And if you like doing a cold brew, then this is a good tool to use for a cold brew. Yeah, if I'm going to go through this one, and if anyone's interested in any particular method, we can come back to it. Cold brew is kind of interesting. I've tried it a couple times, and again, I have not had good luck with this one. But what's cool about this, there's no special tools necessary. What you would do is you get about a cup of beans, and you coarsely grind it. You could do this at the grocery store. Buy your beans, grind them at the grocery store. Add it to about 4 cups of water into a big jar. and put it on the counter or in the fridge, let it go for 18 to 24 hours. And then when you get done, strain your grounds however you want. You could use a French press, you could use cheesecloth, you could use a cheesecloth followed by like a coffee filter. Just you don't want to have it's a lot of coffee grounds for one coffee filter. You don't want to clog it up, but it's something you can do. And then you can keep it in the fridge for a week, and you can, you can get your Starbucks ones, probably taste a lot better, but this is a way you can make it yourself too, and it's kind of fun. Okay, and then my new favorite way of doing it is the espresso machine. So you can at home get you an espresso machine, and mine was a cheap one. It was $100 to see if I was even going to continue doing it. But it has a milk steamer, and I've got a picture of a nice cafe latte that Pro did. And after 1 week of practice, I did get a heart. It looked nothing like the one on top, but I was very proud of myself for getting a heart. But it's a lot of fun, and I've been making lots of hot chocolates for my kids. But yeah, that's another way you can do your coffee at home. I think that might be the last one. So if anyone was interested in any of those brewing methods, does anyone have a question about any of those? Anyone in particular? If not, any other general questions?
I've got a question. Cappuccino, Frappuccino, what makes those, or what's the differences there?
All the Enos that we were.
All the Enos, yes.
All the Enos that are
I forgot to put the Frappuccino on there. So the cappuccino was like the latte, but with less milk. It was 5 to 6 ounces of milk. And it was very similar to the latte. The Frappuccino is, and you go to McDonald's has a really good one too. I do like that, but it's basically, what is it, like a slushy with coffee in it and all sorts of sugary goodness.
Whipped cream, yeah, cookies,
caramel,
blended ice.
So yeah, the Frappuccino, that I do like those. That's a good summertime one too. But yeah, basically
Melinda
slush.
has a question up there.
Sorry, what was that?
I think Melinda has a question.
Oh, yes.
Yes, I was just, I don't know anything about coffee. So I assumed when you made like a pot of coffee or whatever, that it took a long time for that process, but you're literally just pouring the hot water into some of those things. I mean, doesn't that just take seconds? Like, is that all it takes? I'm like,
yeah, it's about, and it depends on the method. So it takes 24 hours for a cold brew, but that's because there's no heat. That's the only one. The pour over takes about a minute and a half. So
you're just like, you would pour, like you can't pour for a minute and a half. So like you just pour a little in, walk away, pour a little in.
There's technique to this. I probably should have done a live demo, but no, I pour it in a circle, and I make sure I get it around and get it nice and evenly. I take it pretty serious. But it's about a minute and a half of pouring, and I pour it as slowly as I can in a circle, and I try to evenly get it all around and make as many bubbles as I can to get as much CO2 out of there so that it's less acidic, because I don't like my coffee acidic. The AEROPRESS is about 20 seconds. So you pour it in there, you stir it, you wait 20 seconds, and then you plunge it out. French press is about 3 to 4 minutes. The coffee pot is probably 2 minutes. If you go to a hotel room and make some coffee with their coffee machine, it's a couple minutes. The K-cup machines, those are what, 30 seconds?
But you've got to grind it and boil the water and stuff like that first before that, right?
That is true. And that's why those electric kettles are nice, because they take about a minute to get up to boiling. You just flip a switch, and then it just, you add your water, flip a switch, and like within a minute it starts boiling.
So
but yeah, there's that.
Does coffee go bad? Like, you know what I mean? I'm just saying, if you make a pot of coffee, how long does the pot last? Or is it just because it gets cold and then you wouldn't want to drink it anymore? Can you heat it back up? Like, I don't know anything about coffee.
Yeah, the cold brew, they say it'll stay for a week in the fridge. I think, to me, once I can hold my mug in my hands comfortably, then I can drink it. And the faster I drink it, the better it'll taste. Because as it gets colder, once it gets to like room temperature, I would call it gross. I've never tried reheating it. Does anyone know? Can you reheat it? I don't know.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds like you can.
I've done it. When I'm desperate.
Desperation.
Yeah.
I was
I'm
gonna
too
say.
lazy to go make another fresh pot or fresh.
most cops in movies reheat their coffee and they say it's pretty nasty. So
But if you got a donut,
He's
you
in the
know.
movie where the guy walks into the room and he's like, "Oh, dang it! You know, the coffee's gone cold."
It's like,
Yeah. Now, when they make coffee for like a conference or something, they have a big coffee pot. They just keep it warm. Or if you go, I think a lot of times when you go to a coffee shop too, they have a big jug, a big container of it, and they make it and they keep it hot in a thermos. And
Like
make-
Maverick or Hearts, where they're those big
Yeah.
things that you just out of the tap and it's always warm.
right, and they just keep it warm, and it tastes. I think it tastes fine.
It sounds like the preparation of coffee is really, I mean, I'm more of a tea than coffee, but it sounds like the preparation is just a very Zen process. You know, you just have this very mindful moment where you're putting it all together. And that's probably part of the appeal too. Like you said, a ritual kind of.
Yeah, for me it is. I'm not gonna lie.
I like that. That's how I am with tea. So.
You're so excited to get that first sip.
Oh yeah.
So I've heard reports that here in Utah County, people are having Diet Coke in a cup and then adding coffee creamer and what you would add to coffee to your Diet Coke. So they're having their breakfast drink of Diet Coke or Coke with the creamer in it. So I'm not quite sure what I think about that, but I thought that was
Yeah,
interesting.
but that's
oh,
what
I thought you were going to
is.
say they were going to
Yeah,
pour
and that's
coffee
true.
in there.
Yeah.
what?
I thought you were going to say they poured coffee into their Coke. Like you've seen the
No,
Coke with coffee
oh
now.
no, not. But you're right, Melinda. That's true. That's very similar to those the drink places where the dirty Coke and that and everything. But I mean, like actually having it in mugs. I thought that was interesting. Like every step of it, except for it's not coffee.
Yeah,
Fascinating. Very interesting.
I'm gonna go make some coffee.
I know. I feel like I want to go to Hearts and get some coffee right now, even though I already have this.
I'm
So.
gonna grind some beans right now. Just
I know. Well, that's awesome, Kevin. Oh my gosh. And I'm so glad that we are. Do you have any final thoughts or is that good? Ready to go make your coffee?
hey.
Yeah.
I'm glad that this will be posted always under the featured tab on Facebook so we can revisit it because I want to watch it again. I especially like the part where you literally showed how to order at Starbucks step by step because that is, you know, such a stress and it's something that you want to do. So no,
If you need McDonald's, I can walk you through.
you can handle
Point
McDonald's.
4.
Anyone else have any last comments or
Would
anything?
you like me to send the slides to you? So would you like to post them? Would that be of
Yeah,
interest?
you know what? That's a
Yes.
good idea too. Yeah, I would love to do that and to email that out. So no, I thought this was amazing because I think I learned more in this last hour. You know, all the things that you're just like, I don't quite get it. I don't know who to ask or how to ask. And now at least I feel if I want to know even more, I can talk about it semi-intelligently. And that AEROPRESS looks interesting. Tom, I think maybe we should try to get one of those. I think that looks really fascinating. So
Yeah.
no, that was excellent. Thank you, Kevin. That was really,
Great.
really
Good
good.
job. I'm going to stop the recording now. So for the
Okay.
recording, we're going to
Okay.
stop.